Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. So we have a very interesting question that we're going to be looking at today. And it's something that I see a lot. And that is people are sitting there saying, listen, I can't stand my job. I'm going to leave. It's a matter of time. But I've just got to get to the place where my finances are in order, where I can afford to go out and take the chance and do this and so on and so forth. And, it's something that I hear literally almost every day, right? It's something that I see almost every day. It's kind of hard because there are a couple factors at play, right? One is there's, the real practical, hey, I got to pay my bills. If I don't pay my rent, then I get evicted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then there's also the element of fear, right? And so a lot of people are just afraid to leave a steady paycheck. They're afraid to take a chance. And so it can be really hard to distinguish between the two. It can be really hard to determine when is the right time to leave, right? So first off, before I dive into the answer, let's just be very clear on the definition. We're talking about a job that you hate, right? If you're in a job that's, not that bad and you're planning for something bigger, maybe, you're in something that's enjoyable, but you're planning to launch a company someday, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is a job where you don't enjoy going into work. Like if I say, hey, listen, how many days last month did you enjoy going into work? And you say like, I was miserable 70% of the time or 90% of the time, okay, that's a job you hate, right? So that's what we're talking about. And here's an answer, and I'm just gonna give you a very clear-cut, definitive answer based on my experience. You should quit a job you hate when you have access to 2 months worth of expenses, okay? Access to 2 months worth of expenses. So let's break that down. Let's talk about why that's the number and what that means. So why 2 months? So you should really be able to start earning money again within 30 days. So one thing I talk about a lot in my presentations is dream bridges. So a dream bridge is exactly the solution to this problem. The reason you have dream bridges is exactly for this, right? A dream bridge is a method of earning money that you can use while you're trying to get your real purpose, what you really want to do, up and running. So it's an escape route out of a job that you hate. But I'm sorry about that. Somebody's trying to dial in that shouldn't. So the dream bridge is an escape route out of a job that you hate, right? It's some means of earning money. It's some means of, providing for yourself. And you should be able to get into it within 30 days. And I know 30 days seems like, some of you may be like, oh my God, that's a really, 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 really quick number. But, based on my experience, that's something that people can do if they're really committed. So there's 30 days to get your dream bridge up and running. And then there's a 1 month buffer, right? So that comes up to 2 months. And the reason I put in a buffer there is because obviously, you don't want to be in a situation where you can't pay your bills, so on and so forth. So there's a little bit of an extension there. But if we're talking about twice the amount of time, then that's a good number, right? So I'm sorry, again, somebody's dialing in that should not be. Okay, so 30 days for Dream Bridge. Why is that an accurate, real number? So first, if you're looking to get a new job, you can have your jobs picked out, you can have your cover letters ready, you can have your resume updated, you can do all of that within a week, to be honest with you, if you're really committed. You can have that done within a week. Then you send them out, then you go and you do interviews, and then you may have to do some follow-ups, but 1 month is not unrealistic there, right? If you're looking at freelancing, right, that's something that you can actually get going and, generally have your profiles, start sending out proposals again within a week, maybe 2, right? And then you start getting jobs, you start getting stuff coming in, generally very quickly. You should be able to get your first hit within 2 to 3 weeks, assuming you're doing things correctly and you're really committed, you're putting in the time, right? Again, you've quit your job, so you got all the time in the world, right? And then what that's going to lead to is then you start building a reputation and then you've got a steady income in about 30 days, right? Now, I will say that most people struggle with this because most people don't know how to plan out dream bridges that can get them that kind of, quick up and running. And most people don't know how to go about applying for jobs properly. So they'll go months without getting a job because they don't know what they're doing. Same with freelancing. They don't know how to pitch themselves. And so they may, send out 100 proposals and get like one piece of work. And, if you're not going about things effectively, then none of this works, right? But if you know what you're doing, or if you have somebody helping you who knows what they're doing, then you shouldn't have any trouble with doing the 30 days. And then, again, there's a 2 month buffer in there, right? There's a 1 month buffer in there. So that's why 2 months, right? That's why 2 months, access to 2 months worth of expenses is enough for you to quit your job. Now, note I was very careful on my phrasing there. I said access to. I didn't say that you have 2 months worth of expenses in the bank. And I said that for a very specific reason. And that is that you can use debt. So if you have a credit limit of $40,000 or $20,000 or whatever, and you don't have anything on that credit limit, you've got access to those expenses, right? You've got access to the resources that you need to pay your bills, right? Now, I know a lot of people are really hesitant about debt, especially if you guys have, if you guys are fans of Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey's really big on minimizing debt and eliminating debt, and for good reason, because most people use debt for consumption purposes. They use it for something that doesn't provide a return, all this kind of stuff. It's very different to use debt for investment purposes, right? And this is an investment in yourself fundamentally. That's what this is, right? So let's just, again, let's be clear. We're talking about a job that you hate. I understand that debt can be uncomfortable. I've probably been in deeper debt than any of you, to be honest. But a lot of people, they appreciate why debt is something that you should avoid, as most cases you should, but they don't appreciate the consequences of staying in a job that you hate, right? If you're just there, every day is emotionally stressful, and it doesn't just sit there in the job that you're in. It carries onwards, right? It goes forward. You carry it when you come home. You carry it if you don't sleep well. It has effects physically. I mean, stress is something that destroys your health. It puts you at greater risk of heart attacks. It puts you at greater risk of cancer. It, drains your energy. It prevents you from exercising. It causes you to make poor diet choices. And it really poisons your relationships. I mean, when you suck the joy out of life because you're miserable at some job that you don't like, God, I must have talked to over hundreds of people who have told me, hey, listen, my wife or my husband is suffering because I'm miserable. Because those people care about you, right? And if you have kids, you don't want them to think that, hey, mom and dad walking around hating life is the way to go. You don't want them to think that they should be in a job that they hate and that's the only way to pay the bills, right? That's not what you're looking for. That's not what you're looking for at all, right? So, okay, so let's get back to our number, right? Access to 2 months worth of expenses, right? We've talked about why debt makes sense. We've talked about why you can be up and running within 30 days. So if you've got somebody who's struggling to pay their rent, if you're out there and you're like, hey, listen, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay my rent in the next 2 months, or, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay my rent next month, then of course, right, stay in your job, work hard, get some financial grounding, hustle, put in the extra hours, do what you need to do, right? That's a situation where I'm going to tell everybody that, right? But once you've built a base, where you can live for 2 months without there being an issue, without you being, kicked out or not being able to eat or something, then it's time to say, hey, listen, I'm going to quit and I'm going to move to something better. I'm going to take a step up. I'm either going to do something that pays me money or something that I enjoy more, but I'm going to start getting into that dream bridge at the very least, right? And there are a lot of people, I speak to people all the time who have like a lot of savings. I was talking to somebody the other day who has like $20,000 worth of savings, and she wasn't ready to take a step and it's really just because of fear, right? People get really, really scared about any kind of change, right? And evolutionarily, there's a reason for that. I mean, back in the old days, any kind of change could mean death, right? If you left your tribe and you went off and wandered off somewhere, you could legitimately die, right? That's not the way the world works anymore, but we've still got some of that hardwiring, back in our brains. And so this fear comes up. Anytime there's a change, there's this fear of disrupting the status quo. But here's the truth, is that fear never goes away, right? The only thing that happens is eventually whatever situation you're in becomes so untenable that you say enough. And that's threshold. That's when change happens, right? So you either have to stand up to that fear or you have to stay trapped forever. Those are the only two options. The only question is when, right? So I truly believe that no one deserves to be miserable in their career or in their life, right? I truly, truly, truly believe that. And that's why I do what I do, right? And so when you do put your foot down, when you do say enough, when you do reach threshold, mountains will move. I promise you they will. I've seen it so many times, right? And that's why I know what's possible. A lot of people, they don't believe it's possible, but I've seen enough times to know that it absolutely what can happen, right? And so if that's the situation, if you guys are at threshold, if you guys have 2 months worth of expenses, or I should say you have access to 2 months worth of expenses, and you don't know how to plan out your dream bridge. You don't know how to make sure that you actually get into that new job, any of that kind of stuff, right? And you're looking to make that change, then I'm here to help, right? This is, you go use this link, right? You will be able to book a call with me personally. We can talk more about your situation. We can talk about what's going on. We can talk about whether I'm the best person to help you. Talk about maybe something else is best, right? Maybe you don't need me. Maybe I don't know, right? I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be above board with you guys. So that link is www.oculusinstitute.com/scheduling. I look forward to helping you guys out. And I do want to leave you guys with this message. As I said, nobody deserves to be miserable, right? There is a constant toll every day that you're in a job that you hate. And there is a constant lightness, a constant enthusiasm when you really have that sense of freedom, right? And so if that's what you want, then you guys are going to have to you're going to have to put your foot down. You're going to have to reach threshold, right? I know that like the whole how financial practical stuff is really scary. And that's why I'm giving you guys a definitive answer. Access to 2 months worth of expenses is enough for you to start your journey. Okay. I know, I've seen it. I'm an expert in this, right? And that's the number that you want to be looking for. So I am looking forward to speaking to you guys soon. I'm looking forward to helping out. I hope that you have found this informative, and I will talk to you guys this weekend. Farewell.